of seven.
Of this best of seven series
of a best of seven series.
Welcome to the Best of Seven podcast.
Welcome to the Best of Seven podcast. I am your host, Brandon Plant from SENS. In episode number 18, we are so very excited to have former longtime NHL goaltender and Team Canada General Manager Sean Burke. But we're going to get to the interview in just a second. Firstly, the other day, Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, faced a huge catastrophe. Over 100 people, unfortunately, passed away in a huge explosion at the port of the capital of Lebanon. Our thoughts and prayers with all of those affected at this time. It's an absolute tragedy. This year can't get any worse. And our thoughts and prayers on behalf of SENS and the Best of Seven podcast is with them. It's an absolute tragedy. And on YouTube, I'll put a link for the Red Cross to donate to help those families and people in need. Now, we're going to get to that Sean Burke interview in a second. But before then, I want to tell y'all what is going to be in store for you in this episode. Firstly, we're going to get in the paint with SENS. Myself, we're going to break down the best NBA games of the week. By the way, the Raptors and Suns are both undefeated in the NBA bubble this year. Now, the Raptors, you might have thought so, but the Suns are surprising. And we're going to get to Devin Booker's performance against the Clippers. Do not worry. As well, we're going to get to the top of the waiver wire with myself, Brandon Plant. That's breaking down all the fantasy baseball moves you should make, who you should pick up, who should add from the waivers, etc. We're also going to talk about some notable performances of the week. The NHL today announced the NHL Draft Lottery will take place August 10th at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're about to find out. It's Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal, Pittsburgh. Who is going to win first overall? We don't know who's going to have a chance. Right now, at this time, on Thursday at 9:53 p.m. Eastern Time, New York Rangers are the only team that's been eliminated from the play-in round. So New York right now is one of those 8 or 9 teams that are going to be in there. So it's going to be interesting to see by the next episode who will win. I'll make sure to let y'all know how I feel about that. Now as well, speaking of the next episode, we're going to have a lot of NHL talk, especially since the qualifying rounds will be done by next episode. So we're going to have a full breakdown, full bracket for that episode. That will be episode number 19. And of course, we're going to have my Stanley Cup preview. By the way, hint, hint, it is the Flyers versus the Avs. I think the Avs are going to win the Cup this year, but I'm going to tell you why in the next episode. Now let's get to this great interview with former longtime NHL goaltender Sean Burke. We are joined here by former NHL goaltender and Team Canada General Manager from the Olympics, Sean Burke. Sean, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brandon. My pleasure. How are you?
Doing all right. It's a rainy day here in Ottawa, but it makes up for it for having an interview as awesome as this one. So it was a rainy day, but at least we're doing something fun,
All right, good. Well, yeah, let's do it. I'll try to be as intelligent sounding as I can.
Listen, if you're the general manager for Team Canada, you're definitely not intelligent. That's definitely an honor to be. Now, let's get to the first question, where you were drafted in the first round, 24th overall by the New Jersey Devils in 1985. Where were you during that moment, and what went through your head when getting drafted by such a legendary team like the New Jersey Devils?
Well, actually, you had it right first. It was the second round in those days.
Oh, really?
Even though it was 24th overall, there were only 21 teams, so I was a high pick in the second round. I like to tell people I'd be a first rounder in today's NHL, but New Jersey up to that point, they'd had a bit of an interesting history because they were in Colorado.
Yep.
And relocated to New Jersey. They hadn't made the playoffs yet. So I didn't really know that much about them. And I was there. I was at the draft. It was in Toronto. I didn't know at all that New Jersey was interested. I thought I was maybe going to go to the Rangers. They had shown a lot of interest. But as a kid, getting your name announced and being drafted in the NHL is a dream come true. So you're excited no matter who takes you.
Were you with your family at the time, or was it just yourself?
I was with my family, and it was the typical draft day for a young player. You buy a new suit, you get all dressed up and looking your best, and then you sit in the stands there, very nervous, very excited, waiting to hear your name, and it's almost surreal when it does get called.
Well, I obviously can't relate to being drafted, as I'm not much of a NHL hockey prospect, but I can't imagine just the overwhelming emotions of happiness and just pride and everything going through that moment. So that's awesome. And of course, being with your family at the time is just the cherry on top. Now let's get to your your start of your international career, which happened a year after getting drafted. Early in your career, as you stood up for Team Canada in the World Junior Championship in 1986 en route to a silver medal, what did it feel like to play for your country at such a young age?
Well, it was obviously an honor, and I ended up being the backup goalie in that tournament to Craig Billington, who had played the year before, and they had won it. So, Biller played outstanding. I did get to play in the tournament. I played against Finland, I remember, in a pretty good game. So for me, a young player, obviously, really my first taste of any high-level international hockey was a great experience. It was in Toronto and Hamilton is where the tournament was. So you're in Canada in front of your own fans. And, really looking back, it didn't have necessarily the craziness around it as today's World Junior does, but it was still a great tournament. And for any young player to be picked to play on that team was an honor.
Of course. And now I'm wondering, in that start against Finland, were there any notable NHL players you had to face against?
Oh, yeah. I mean, all those teams, and our team included, we had Joe Newendike on our team and Scott Mellenby and, Shane Corson. I can remember, obviously, I mentioned Billington, Terry Karkner on defense. The Russian team was stacked with future NHL players. And, in those days, it was really still the Cold War time. So Canada-Russia was a big rivalry. And it wasn't like it is today where, all of us and especially anybody in the league now has played with many Russian players. In those days, they really were the enemy, and there was no love lost between the two countries when it came to hockey.
Yeah, that reminds me of the 1970 Summit Series. I had to do a project on it in grade 10 for history, which was an honor to do for a history class where most people are doing stuff about World War II. I did something about the 1970 Summit Series. So that rivalry, definitely crazy, and it's still crazy. You can look at here in Ottawa in 2009 with the Jordan Eberle goal, the last 5 seconds. But let's move on to the Olympics. Now, before you were the general manager for Team Canada, you also got to play in the 1988 Olympics in Calgary at the young age of 21, en route to a 4th place finish. Do you have any stories or memorable moments from that 98 run?
Well, I guess the most memorable thing for me was as such a young player was the honor of getting to play in the Olympics. And again, it was in Canada. I got to do it again 4 years later in 1992, where we did play in the gold medal game against the Russians. But in '88, there was a lot of pressure. We had beat the Russians in Moscow a few months before that at the Izvestia tournament and really got them upset with us. So we knew coming into the tournament they were going to be looking for some revenge. And it's never easy in a tournament of that magnitude playing in front of your home crowd. We played well, but we were nervous at times. And I thought our team performed extremely well. We were, I think, really close to winning that bronze medal. That it depended on another game and a finish in a different game, which kind of went against us. But as far as how the team played in that tournament, we were very respectful.
Now, tell me about the system that the Olympics had at the time. It's clearly different than it is now. So was it sort of like a round robin like they used to do in the World Juniors? Was it structured tournament? What was the Olympic tournament like for hockey? Because like what you just said is a little bit different than what it is these days.
Yeah, I mean, you're testing my memory. It's a long time ago.
Sorry.
But there was more of a, it didn't come down to necessarily winning the gold by playing a gold medal game.
Okay.
It was based on points, and you actually got points and then reseeded again in the medal round. For us, I remember we lost to Finland, which really hurt us.
Yeah.
We tied Sweden. We beat the Czechs. The Russian game we lost, but we won enough games to put ourselves in medal contention. And unfortunately, I think it was either Germany or Sweden or somebody was playing in a game that we needed the favorite to win, and there was an upset which ended up costing us a medal. But again, in those tournaments, you have to play your best hockey, and if you lose a game at the wrong time, that can be the difference.
Now, while it's obviously disappointing to just miss out on a bronze medal in the Olympics thanks to an upset, you at least got to go right to the NHL after the Olympics. You transitioned immediately to the Devils, leading the Devils to the Wales Conference Finals in Game 7, where you unfortunately lost in Game 7 to Boston. As a rookie who is dubbed a rookie sensation, how did you handle the nerves going to your rookie season in the National Hockey League?
I didn't really have a lot of nerves at that point. I was coming out of, as you mentioned, the Olympics, and I was so excited now to get a chance to go to the NHL. And I looked at it really as just a great challenge. And they had a good young team there that, as I mentioned earlier, hadn't really made the playoffs, had a lot of success. But, there was a lot of good young prospects there, Shanahan, and, we had Pat Verbeek, Kirk Muller, John McLean. I mean, we had a lot of good young players. And the time was right. I went in there and, got a little bit of momentum. The team started to rally, and we had one of those runs where you can't really explain it other than things come together for you, and you don't want it to stop, so you carry it as far as you can.
Now, walk me through as a goaltender. The game prep is a little bit different than a regular player. Just usually as a goaltender, you're left alone on game day, and you have a different routine. So walk me through a regular game day routine as a National Hockey League goaltender.
Well, everybody's a little bit different, I think. But again, I was never really that unorthodox. I don't think. I prepared the way I felt gave me the best chance to be mentally ready and physically ready when the game started, and so that didn't involve anything too crazy. It was more of the routine of, getting to the rink and having sort of, I won't call it a system, but an order of things that I like to get done in my preparation before the game. And like I said, some of those were physical. You're stretching and you're warming up, and then some of them were mental, where you sit and tape your stick and you think about the game a little bit. But really, it wasn't a whole lot different than a lot of the other guys on the team. And I never had a ton of superstitions or anything like that. I just wanted to get to the rink with a lot of time to prepare and know that when the game started, I was ready.
Well, let's go back in time for a second. I'm going to test your memory again here, Sean. Before you went to the conference finals, you had to clinch the playoffs first. Walk us through that overtime game against Chicago during the 1987-88 season on the final night of that season that qualified your team, the New Jersey Devils, to the playoffs.
Yeah, that was an exciting night. Again, it's a long time ago now, and what I remember most is obviously your teammates and the excitement and elation of winning a game like that, and John McLean scoring a couple goals in that game, including the game winner in overtime. A game we had to win, and I think that going into the game is as long ago as it was. The one thing that I do remember is our team just felt we weren't going to get denied. We had
really
played so well. We had put ourselves in that position, and we were just going to find a way to win. And that's what happens when teams get momentum, and young players, or any team for that matter, starts to build a confidence together. You find ways to win hockey games, and that was a night where we just found a way to win.
Now, talk to me about that night. After you clinched the playoffs, was there a celebration of some sorts?
Oh yeah, that was an exciting night, and the old Chicago arena had a lot of steps you had to crawl down and up when you came to the ice and left it. So, we were tired. It was a very intense game, and the excitement just of being in the playoffs for the first time ever for the franchise and for most of us players was incredibly exciting. But we didn't feel the job was done. We weren't just trying to make the playoffs. We were trying to make some noise once we got there, and so there was a lot of excitement. But it was back to business pretty quick.
Speak to me about that excitement in New Jersey. You told me when they moved from Colorado to New Jersey, there was not a lot of playoff success because they didn't really make the playoffs. So walk me through that excitement in New Jersey and Newark, the fan engagement, just the sense of excitement in the air. What was that like for a new franchise?
Well, the fans were incredible. It was, it was a team that, if you're a New Jersey Devil fan in those days, you took a lot of heat from Islander fans and Ranger fans, and especially the Islanders, who had won a number of Stanley Cups. And New Jersey Devil fans were sort of very proud to, be faithful to the team, but they didn't have a lot of success to be able to brag about. And this was an opportunity. We knocked the Rangers out on the last day, so that added a little bit of, extra excitement to it. And then we beat the Islanders in the playoffs itself in the first round. And so I think that, for New Jersey Devil fans in those days, that legitimized the team for them. And everybody knows they've gone on to win numerous Stanley Cups in the years after. And there's, no shame ever in being a New Jersey Devil fan. There's a lot of success associated with that organization. But in those days, it was the first step for people to, have a little, a little pride and be able to at least look at Ranger fans and Islander fans and say, okay, you know what, this is our time to shine.
Yeah, speaking of your time to shine, walk me through defeating the Islanders in the first round. Keep in mind, everyone listening and watching this, the Islanders were much better than they are these days back then. Four straight Stanley Cups, right?
They won 4 cups. Yeah, they did. They won 4 in a row.
So what was that like, taking down such a legendary team?
The team was still – they were a lot of guys at the end of their career. Denny Potvin was still playing. Brian Trottier was still playing.
Wow.
I think that Pat LaFontaine was the star of the team at that point. They had made a transition. But, for us, it didn't really matter who we were going to play. It made it a little extra special. The Islanders had finished in first place, so they were favored. But we had the young team. We had the confidence and the momentum going into the series. And it wasn't easy. There's never any easy games in the playoffs. But we found a way. And I think that for the Islanders, they were making a transition, as I said. And they were at the end of that era where they were going to be the Stanley Cup favorite. But for us, it was a huge victory for the franchise.
Well, I think that's incredible. Just as a rookie, getting to play against LaFontaine, of course, Denny Potvin, Ottawa 67's legend. That's awesome. Now, I want to speak about something even more incredible. In August of 1992, you got traded to the Hartford Whalers. Now, you wound up playing in the final 5 years of the Whalers' existence. In the final game of the team's existence, the Whalers took down Tampa 2-1. Now, what was it like to play in such an emotionally raw atmosphere, knowing that was the last game ever in Hartford?
Yeah, there was a lot of mixed emotions. The game itself didn't mean anything in terms of standings. Both of us were out of the playoffs, which was very disappointing. It would have been a great way to end the franchise's existence by going into the playoffs. But there was a lot of unknown. We knew the team was moving, relocating, and for a lot of us, we'd been in Hartford for a number of years, had raised families there, or at least had kids there, and made a lot of friends and acquaintances in the community. So it was unusual, but it was something that didn't happen just overnight. We knew it was coming. We had heard a lot about it, and the fans were the ones that we thought the most about. Was people who had supported the team. People who had been loyal to the club, and all of a sudden they weren't going to have a team to cheer for, or at least not a team they could go and watch every night. So that's what I remember. It was disappointing for the fans, and we felt that for them. But as professionals, it was out of our control, really.
Now, you spent, like you just said, 5 years of your career and your life in Hartford. So what was the city like? Was it nice? Was it quiet? What was the city like? Because I've driven through Hartford, but I've never really stayed. So what was it like in Hartford?
Yeah, Hartford was it was quiet, but it was a great place to live. It was a great place to raise kids, and the fans were incredibly loyal, treated the team with respect. You were the, I guess, biggest team in town. There was no other professional teams, so we were treated well. And what I remember the most is just the feeling that people were behind the team, and everywhere you went, you were treated well but respected. Fans would come up to you and they'd want to talk about hockey, but they never invaded your privacy if you're out having dinner or something. And it was a very, very nice community to play in. And it was unfortunate. It just didn't, as the economics of the game changed. Yeah. It didn't have sort of the infrastructure at that point to support a team, but it surely wasn't. It wasn't lack of fan support that was the difference.
Now, I think what's funny is the way you just described Hartford, the way you described the fan base, in my opinion, is exactly like Ottawa. It's a very quiet town. It's very safe, and it's a great place to raise your children. The fan base is loyal. So I think the comparables are there. And on top of that, I hope Ottawa never has to move. Now let's speak about that move with the Whalers. Do you think there's ever a chance that Hartford can get a team back?
I have no idea. That's such a tough question because if you look right now with Seattle coming in, there's going to be 32 teams. There's probably not going to be expansion for a long, long time. If who knows when?
Yeah. And
in the today's markets and how big the market has to be and the amount of money you need to generate, it's hard for me knowing what Hartford was like back then to see it as an NHL franchise in those terms. But obviously, when you think about the loyalty of the fans and the support, I'd love to say yes. I think it would be a great place again for a team. I'm just not sure that the economics make sense. And if there'd ever be a chance the NHL would look to expand again, it's hard to know when.
The biggest issue with Hartford is there's so many teams surrounding it, and it's not the biggest community itself. So you have a competition against teams like Boston and both New York teams, New Jersey. It's nearly impossible. But one thing that stuck out from Hartford is that beautiful jersey, and more importantly, that beautiful logo. Do you think that's your favorite jersey or logo that you've worn in your lengthy NHL career?
It was definitely one of them. I mean, I think that, again, Hartford it's so unique. It's and now, of course, with having no team, those jerseys and sort of the cultish flavor that organization has taken on and the merchandise. But I always felt that those were great jerseys, great logo, and was always proud to put that on.
That is. Obviously I'm a Senators fan, and we don't have the best logo. You can see it right there. It's not the best. We're luckily getting this one back very soon. But the Hartford Whalers jersey, logo, whatever you want to say, is probably my favorite logo in all of the sports. It's just so creative. It has the H. It has the tail. The jerseys are beautiful and clean. It's a damn shame that those jerseys aren't worn anymore. Now, Carolina's starting to bring that back, but still, it would be nice to see them 82 games in a season. Now, let's talk about the inaugural season with the Hurricanes. After moving to Carolina, after 5 years in Hartford, you played a little bit with the Carolina Hurricanes, but then you got moved to two other teams in the same exact season. Those teams being Vancouver, the Vancouver Canucks, and of course the Philadelphia Flyers. What did the season feel like being on three different teams, especially after having 5 years in the same exact location? What was that like?
Well, it was a very strange year. It started out well in terms of the excitement of getting into a new place and getting adjusted, but my game wasn't great. I didn't play really that well. And, Carolina, the situation, the team was living in Raleigh, the players. We were playing in Greensboro, which is, a 2-hour drive. So there really wasn't like you had a home game. You almost felt like you're on the road all the time. I mean, it was a lot easier for the players than it was for the training staff and support staff. But it was a tough early situation. And my play wasn't really that good. So I got bounced around that year a couple places, and when that starts to happen to you as a player, it takes a little bit of your confidence away. You got to find some things out about yourself because those aren't easy situations. But I was excited to go to Vancouver, and then I was excited to go to Philadelphia, and unfortunately, neither one of those places I played my best hockey.
Well, we're going to get to some of your best seasons. You certainly bounced back after a little bit of a rough patch, but walk me through the mental side of the game where, like you just said, you weren't having your best start with the new team, and now you're on two other new teams. So mentally, what can you do as a goaltender, especially in such a volatile position in hockey? What can you do mentally to prepare yourself and get yourself back on track?
Well, there's a lot of things you try to do. You're always trying to stay confident, and that comes from your work and the details of your game and how your preparation is and all those things. But there are just times when you struggle, and it's not an easy position to struggle at because you can't go out and just work harder necessarily. It doesn't always work that way, and the harder you try sometimes when you play goal, and the more you chase the game, the more difficult it becomes. So it's definitely a tough position when you're struggling physically, but it's more difficult when you're struggling mentally. And a lot of it comes down to your perseverance and working at your game and finding a way to dig yourself out of it. But there's definitely times when that just doesn't come overnight.
Well, you certainly did that because you had your best statistical seasons in your 5 years with the Phoenix Coyotes, including a .930 save percentage in 2003. I was 2 years old at the time, so I can't say I remember that, but it looks really good on paper. You also played in 2 playoff series with the Coyotes and ended up coming back to Phoenix to be their goalie coach after you retired from your NHL career. Overall, Arizona, what was the experience like in such a weird climate to play hockey?
It was a great experience. It's still my home. I've lived in Arizona for over 20 years now, and I think that it was a really timely experience for me to go there in a point in my career where my game needed an overhaul, and I found that. I found with Benoit Allaire, a goalie coach who got me at a time when I needed some real changes. I needed to have an open mind to not only change things, but just to look at the game a little bit differently. And so I was lucky I got there at the time I did, and we had good teams. The division, the conference in those days, Colorado was so strong. Yeah. San Jose was strong. And we had good teams. And I think if we could have got out of the first round, we may have done some real damage. But Arizona, as I said, has been home for me for a long time, and it was never weird playing in that climate because once you got inside the rink, you could have been anywhere. It didn't really change anything. It was sure nice when you came out of the rink though, and it was 85 degrees instead of going home and plowing some snow.
I'm sure it's a little different walking to the rink, in shorts before you put the suit on, just going to the rink or just after the game going out in shorts, whatever. I'm sure that's much different than your experience in Vancouver, Philadelphia, etc. Now, as a former goalie coach for 6 seasons, actually, before I get to that question, I have a follow-up question about Arizona. Did you ever get the honor to play in the Kachina jerseys that they're wearing right now?
That's the jersey that we wore.
Okay, lucky.
The Kachina was the jersey I was in for 5 years. It changed at the end of my tenure there, but that was really the only jersey that we wore in the time I was in Arizona.
So you're telling me you got the honor to wear that Hartford Whalers jersey and the Kachina jerseys. Right off the bat, I envy that quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I think if you ask most players, any NHL jersey that you get to wear is an honor, but those are definitely 2 that people seem to like and are obviously very popular with collectors.
Honestly, I think the Kachina jerseys and, of course, the Hartford jerseys are such cult classics because, like, you look at these SENS jerseys right there, like the red ones. They're all very generic and they're all very similar. You look at, of course, as an NHL player, it's an honor to wear any jersey. But I think getting the opportunity to wear a unique jersey is more of an honor because, now this is just me as a fan, it's more of an honor because it's so unique, it's new, and it's fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's, for me, I look at Ottawa's jersey and there's a classic look to that. It all depends what you're looking for in a jersey, what it represents, what the history of the franchise is. Hartford jerseys are probably much more liked and respected now that there's no longer a team than they were in the days when we were wearing them and playing there. But again, it's as a player, it's the saddest day is when the jersey's no longer hanging in your stall and you realize you're not going to get to put it on again. So while you are wearing it, you'd be happy to wear any of them.
Now, on the topic of jerseys, Ottawa itself is going through a rebrand phase where we're likely getting this it's basically confirmed we're getting the 2D jersey back. It's going back to the 90s look. Now, I'm wondering, as an impartial person, you have no connection really to the Ottawa Senators. I'm wondering, just as a fan, do you like the O jersey? Do you like that jersey? Or do you like the regular 3D jersey? The 2D, 3D, or O for listeners?
I like their original jersey.
So this one?
Yeah, the original. Okay. Yeah, and Ottawa came into the league when I was in Hartford, and we played them a lot, and played them in the old arena there, and
Civic Center, yeah.
the Civic Center, and so that franchise for me is there's a lot of history there too. They had some great teams in the year. I mean, when I was in Tampa, we played them in the playoffs, and that team, the teams they had were very, very close to Stanley Cup teams and contenders. So,
Yes.
Ottawa, I know it's different right now. They're in a rebuild of sorts, and things are different, but that franchise does have a lot to be proud of in their history.
Now, what year was that? 2005 you played against Ottawa
Yep.
in Tampa? And Ottawa won that series, correct?
Yeah, Ottawa beat us in, I believe it was 5 games. I think that's year Hasek got hurt and Ray Emery came in and played very well.
Razor.
And he did a nice job for them in the playoffs. But, Ottawa, I mean, that's those teams were tough teams to play against. And if you were playing in any of the places, Philadelphia or Tampa or any of these teams, you knew you were in for a good game when you played Ottawa.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Dominik Hasek because 2005, the lone year he's with Ottawa, was the year, like you just said, he got injured at the Olympics. So, thankfully we had Ray Emery, rest in peace, of course, backstop the Senators and, of course, put them in 2006 to a Stanley Cup final. But like you said, Ottawa had many great teams. A lot of those teams couldn't take down Toronto. A lot of those teams couldn't get over the hump. It's really a shame because I think those Ottawa Senators teams were probably the best teams to never win a Stanley Cup. One of the best teams to never win a Stanley Cup. You got Spezza, you got Alfie, Heatley. So it's a damn shame. But at the end of the day, they had a lot of good runs. Now, going back to your career as a goaltending coach, as a former goalie coach for 6 seasons and an NHL goaltender for 18 seasons, what advice would you give to young goaltenders out there who are trying to make it to the NHL or just professional hockey as a whole?
I think the advice is always the same for young players. It's first of all, you have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to control the things that you can control. There's players out there that are going to mature quicker. They're going to, they're going to just naturally, with their physical maturity, be ahead of other players. But that doesn't mean that at the end of the day that those are the guys that are necessarily always going to make it. So confidence as a young player is so important, and you get that by working hard. You get that by doing all the little things you need to do, taking care of yourself, doing the extra work off the ice. And the formula is never really that complicated. There's a lot of players I've played with who made it and made good careers for themselves because they were outworking other people and they competed extremely hard. And you have to enjoy the game to be able to show up to the rink and do that every day.
Of course. I think that's a great point to move on to the next point because in hockey, you got the early practices and just the game itself is really grueling, and not a lot of people understand that. Football is very comparable between the two, where it's early practices, practice, and games. So let's move on to a unique situation for you in 2018 when you went to the Olympics again, but this time not on the ice, but instead in the front office as a general manager for Team Canada. And you couldn't select any NHL players for the Olympic team that season. However, what was your strategy when selecting players from around the world to join your team, Team Canada, that ended up going on to win the bronze medal in 2018?
Well, the strategy was to just work really hard to evaluate as many players as we could and be fair to anybody that was out there that had a chance to make the team. And that required a lot of work. It required a lot of live views, seeing players all over the world. I had a staff that worked extremely hard. I wasn't on my own or out there doing it all on my own. I had lots of other guys watching games, watching video. And the strategy was similar to putting together, I guess, any team to a degree. We're looking to find the best chemistry, find the kind of team that could come together quickly. And looking back on it, the team played extremely well at the Olympics. It probably performed better at the Olympics than we did in other tournaments during the year. And unfortunately, we had a tough period and a half against Germany, which cost us a chance to play in the gold medal game. But I have to say I'm very proud of that team and the effort they put forth. And those players were extremely honored to represent their country.
Now, I do remember that Germany game like it was yesterday. It was heartbreaking to see a team like Canada lose to Germany, but it was also great to see a team like Canada that not a lot of people gave credit to. Everyone thought Russia, or Olympic athletes from Russia would dominate. And Team Canada held their own in all their games, and Germany just had a special team that year. Now, just talk to me about the player selection. And you did mention that a big factor in the player selection was team chemistry. So now I'm assuming that you took a long look at the Spengler Cup Team Canada team to sort of pick out your players, because those players played a tournament in Spengler Cup before the Olympics. So I'm wondering if that played a factor into your Olympic selection.
Well, all the tournaments prior to that, we had a great schedule. We played in a couple KHL tournaments. We played in the Spengler Cup. We played in a tournament in Finland. So we had a lot of good evaluation of our players. And the Spengler Cup was the tournament that was closest to the Olympics, or close to the Olympics. And so, a lot of the players that were on that team ended up being on our final roster. But it was just a year of really enjoyable evaluating of players, playing in some great events, all building up to the Olympic Games. And I think, as I said earlier, I couldn't be more proud of the effort the guys gave, and especially after losing to Germany, to have to bounce back the very next day and play in a bronze medal game against the Czechs, who were a team that was every bit as good as we were. To be able to beat them and to beat them handedly really was a testament to the character of our players.
Well, I think as a Canadian, I was proud, of course. Whenever Canada has any bit of success, I'm proud. And now as a Canadian, against Pavel Francouz, now an NHL goaltender, just seeing you guys overcome that loss against Germany to get that bronze medal was great. Now, I'm wondering, this year in the National Hockey League, has any goaltender caught your eye?
Well, there's a lot of good young goalies out there. I think when you watch hockey now, the game has got to the point where the skill level is pretty impressive, and the rule changes have made the game more about skill. So the goaltending has become more difficult. Goaltenders face higher quality chances. They face more power plays, and when I think of the goalies, there's so many good goalies in our league. I mean, you look at Vasilevsky, Tuukka Rask has been outstanding for a lot of years. You look at some of the younger guys that are out there. I like watching John Gibson in Anaheim. I know he didn't have the best year. Darcy Kemper in Arizona's played really well. And then you got the Carey Prices and the guys who've been doing it for a lot of years. So it's a league of a lot of skill, and that extends right into the goaltending.
Have you had the opportunity to watch Marcus Hogberg play any hockey?
Who's that?
Marcus Hogberg, the Sanders goaltender.
Yeah. Yes, I have. I've seen him play. I've seen him play more in the minor league level. I haven't seen him play at the NHL level a lot. But he's a big guy. He moves well, competes. I think that a lot of times for goaltenders like that, it's getting in the right situation and getting an opportunity to play, and then you have to play well when you get the chance. So it's a tough position. There's only 2 spots on every team, and it's incredibly competitive. And sometimes it just comes down to when you get that chance, you've got to make your mark.
Well, he certainly made his mark this year, and like you said, he's a big guy, and his first bit of NHL experience wasn't the greatest. He made a lot of big stops, also made a lot of big mistakes. Now, this season, he had a great year, so sky's the limit for the kid. Now, I'm wondering, if given the chance, would you want to be the general manager of the Olympic team again for 2022?
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime you get the opportunity to be a general manager of an event like that on the world stage, it's a great honor. And, again, my experiences with Hockey Canada have been tremendous. I've had numerous opportunities to manage teams, and I go back to playing with the national team as a player, and it's nice to have a long NHL career. But for me, the bonus of it all has been that I've had the opportunity to have a long international career, both playing and working since I retired as a player.
Now, you've had a storied NHL career, and you've played for 8 different NHL franchises. Out of those 18 seasons in the league, what is your number one career highlight?
I don't know if I could tell you that. I think if you don't win a Stanley Cup, you probably don't have one. You think of a lot of other maybe great events you've had or times that you've enjoyed the game and different series you've played in and international games and all that. But I would say the highlight for every player is when you win a Stanley Cup. And if you don't, it's probably a lot more difficult question to answer. So for me, I'd say it's not one highlight. It's the combination of getting the opportunity to play for as long as I did and then to have the great international experiences that I had as well.
Now, as Toronto and Columbus are playing currently, I want you to throw out there a Stanley Cup prediction. Who do you think goes to the finals and who wins it ultimately?
It's so hard this year. I've watched obviously every game, and I'm with Montreal right now. So it's been exciting watching us give Pittsburgh such a tough battle here in the first two games and winning that first game. And it just shows you that there's no easy games, no easy series. If I was picking in the West, what I've seen so far, and it's hard to know, but I like Colorado.
Yeah,
I like the combination of their youth, yet they've got some real skill and ability. St. Louis winning last year is obviously a team that's going to be have to be reckoned with. On the East, it's wide open again. You've got the Bostons and the Tampas, and you watch this Columbus team play, and Pittsburgh, and yet we're giving them a good battle. So I'm the worst guy to ask because I could talk myself into naming just about every one of the 24 teams right now, and then I could give you a reason why all 24 of those teams wouldn't win either.
Well, I'm glad you threw out Colorado there because I think their mix of youth, speed, and experience and capable goaltending, I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. And the Philadelphia Flyers are a team that not many people speak about enough. That team is so underrated, and I think they're going to go on a run this year. Now, you've given us a lot of your time, Sean, so why don't you tell the people that are watching and listening to this where they can find you on social media and what you're doing these days?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm currently still working with Montreal, although I'm not working at the moment as far as physically at games. Yeah. And we'll see where that goes after this. But I've been with that organization the last 4 years. I've been working with Hockey Canada in those 4 years as well. And the future is sort of wide open again. We'll see what happens after this hockey's done and what lies ahead in the future here. But I'm not a big social media guy. I'm on Twitter. So that's probably the easiest place to find me. But for the most part, if you're really looking, you'll find me in a hockey rink somewhere.
Well, Sean, absolute pleasure. When I told my father and grandfather that I was having you on the show, they were shocked. Not that I'm not capable of getting such, fun people to have on the show. They were just, they followed your career because, they watched hockey when you were dominating in the NHL. So thank you. It's honestly a pleasure. My father and grandfather are going to enjoy watching this when we upload it. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
My pleasure, and say hi to your father and your grandfather for me. And I'm glad you didn't say your great-grandfather was watching.
I will do. Sean, absolute pleasure. Thank you, and you're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thanks, Brandon.
Welcome to Top of the Waiver Wire. I'm your host, Brandon Plant. Now let's get to the MLB notable performances over the past 7 days. Firstly, Aaron Judge has been on a tear lately with the New York Yankees. He went 10 for 28 over the last 7 days with 7 home runs. I think 5 or 6 of those came in 5 or 6 straight games and 16 RBIs. The New York Bombers are going off. The Bronx Bombers, pardon me, are going off. Aaron Judge, a huge part of that. 10 for 28, 7 dingers, huge performances. Nicholas Castellanos from the Cincinnati Reds, 8 for 22. However, he hit 5 home runs and 9 RBIs. That Cincinnati team looks pretty legit with Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, Moose, Mike Moustakas, and other great pieces on that batting core with a great pitching staff like Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer, like I just said. The Cincinnati Reds are legit. Joey Votto is actually having a little bit of a resurgence as well. So let's see what happens with the Reds. For the first time in a long, long time, the Reds are competitive. Mike Yastrzemski, 7 for 25 this week, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 9 walks. When I play baseball, I draw a lot of walks, so I could respect the walks. But Mike, fantastic. If you're in a category league, the walks are huge, the RBIs are huge, and the home runs are huge. The average isn't the best, but if you're going to add this guy or if he's available in your league, the walks and RBIs are huge for your categories. I play in a points league personally, but I know a lot that play in categories, and that's a great stat line for categories. Now, Trent Grisham, who I traded, now I did win the trade. I think I traded for Justin Turner, and was it Brandon Lowe or was it Mac Muncy? But Trent Grisham went the other way. He's been tearing it up. He went 8 for 27 this week with 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and 5 walks. Like I just said for Mike, this is the ultimate category guy. He's available in a lot of leagues, but he's getting picked up quite a bit. So I think right now he's at 60, 70% owned. So scoop him up before it's too late. He's like top 50 ranked in Yahoo. He's having a fantastic breakout season. He was a sleeper candidate. That's why I drafted him. I traded him stupidly for pennies on the dollar, just like Mike Hoffman with Oliver Sanders. However, he's playing great, and the guy I traded him to is laughing to the bank. However, I'm pretty good too. I got Max Muncy and Turner or Brandon Lowe in the deal. But regardless, Trent Grisham has been fantastic. Now let's talk about Charlie Blackmon. 13 for 25, 11 RBIs and a home run this week. All you need to know is 13 for 25, especially in categories. The average will be through the roof. And if you're in the stats league, a lot of those are extra base hits, I believe. So Charlie Blackmon with a lot of power, especially playing in Colorado, where there's a lot of extra base hits there because of the sea level difference. He was fantastic. Now, Donovan Solano, 12 for 24, 500 average, which for category owners, icing on the cake there. 1 home run, 10 RBIs on the week. Now, Shane Bieber, chief editor Noah Luden, has this guy, and he rubs it in my face. I've always wanted Shane Bieber on my team. And then I believe I drafted Verlander over Shane Bieber, and we all know what happened with Shane Bieber. With Verlander, he's injured. He should be back mid to late season. He should be back maybe late August, early September, which is a big blow to my team, but I'm a back-to-back champ with my fantasy team, baby, so it doesn't matter. But Shane Bieber went 2-0 this year, 15 2/3 innings pitched with 200 runs and 21 KO strikeouts in 2 starts this week. That is absurd. Shane Bieber is legitimately one of the top pitchers, for strikeouts anyways, in the league. He's been absolutely unreal, lighting it up. Now, I know he played against some easier teams, like 2 weeks ago he played against Kansas City, but he's putting up these numbers against MLB players, 21 Ks in 2 starts. So, if you can trade for him, do it, because I can tell you, you can't pick him up. He's not available in any leagues. I think he's like 99% owned. Now, Zach Plesac, 15 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 17 Ks. I have him. He's very underrated. Him and Aaron Savall are 2 pitchers that are very, very underrated. If you can get him, scoop him up. If he's taken, make sure to trade for him if you can, because Ks in points league anyways are huge. Like, that's like 2 points in my league is a strikeout. Now, that's not the average thing. I don't know what it is on average for strikeouts, but 17 Ks is huge. Plesac is great. Gilbert Marquez, redemption season for him. 2-0 on the week. 13 1/3 innings pitched. 3 earned runs, 17 Ks in 2 starts. So another great strikeout pitcher, which is exactly what you want in a points league for fantasy baseball. Now, categories, he's not allowing a lot of earned runs, so the ERA should be low, so he's a great add as well. Sonny Gray, who we just spoke about with the Cincinnati Reds, 2 games this week. He went 2-0, 12 2/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 19 Ks in 2 starts. Sonny Gray, a lot of people were questioning if he'd be great or not the last year and especially this year, and he has had such a resurgence. I remember when he was one of the top guys and he got injured. Now he's back on the top. Cincinnati is legit. Now, Brandon Woodruff. Great name, Brandon. 12 1/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 16 Ks in 2 starts. And then Lance Lynn, 12 1/3, 1 earned run, 15 Ks in 2 starts. So basically, those are your top performances of the week, and I guarantee you those pitchers are not going to be available on the waiver wire, so you might want to talk to whoever owns them and make a trade happen, because these guys are striking out guys left, right, and center, and in such a shortened season, you need to pick up those who are getting strikeouts. Now, potential fantasy pickups for this week. Let's talk about it. Firstly, relief pitcher Roman Wick. He's 37% owned in Yahoo. Craig Kimbrell hasn't earned a save yet, and he's earned runs in each of his appearances. His time as a closer is all but done, and Wick has stepped in save opportunities for the Cubs. So if you're in a huge dire need for saves, Roman Wick's your guy. Now, outfielder Joe Adell, one of the top prospects in baseball, gets a call up with the Los Angeles Angels. He's going to be dominant very soon for sure. He even got his first hit in his first MLB game. He is a top prospect, 51% owned in Yahoo. Make sure to scoop him up before it's too late. Starting pitcher, Christian Javier, 52% owned in Yahoo. Another top prospect in such a short year. You're going to see a lot of prospects get a chance. So with Justin Verlander hurt for the Astros for the near future, Javier has fitted in nicely so far with the Astros, only earning 2 runs in 2 starts so far. He's also had an elite 1.74 ERA in the minors last year, best in MILB. So you know he can pitch, you know he can get you results. So he's owned in half of the leagues in Yahoo, so make sure to scoop him up before more and more and more people scoop him up. So listen to SENS Stocks or myself, Brandon Plant's advice. Now Kyle Freeland, the starting pitcher for the Colorado Rockies, has had another resurgent season. There's a lot of people here with resurgent seasons. Kyle Freeland last year was brutal, but 2 years ago he was absolutely fantastic. So now he's 39% owned in Yahoo because not a lot of people thought he'd be great. So this year is looking to be a comeback year for Kyle Freeland. He was amazing in 2018 and had a terrible year in 2019. He even went to the minors in 2019, but now in 2020, he's 2-0, only allowed 2 earned runs, and has gone 6 innings in both of his starts this year. By the way, the guy gets a few strikeouts a game too. He's a sure bet right now. Don't know in a couple weeks, but right now, he's a sure bet to get you a solid streaming option. So if you're in a need for a pitcher to get you 15, 16, 17 points or decent category stats, he's your guy right now. Be cautious, but so far looks so good. Now, starting pitcher Luis Patino, 14% owned in Yahoo. Another top pitching prospect, this time for the Padres, who have a lot of pitching prospects like Mackenzie Gore. By the way, scoop him up if you can. He's likely to get a start in the bullpen, but he'll probably make it into the rotation eventually, like Christian Javier. But if it was up to me, it's either him or Patino. I'd probably expect Mackenzie Gore to get the rotation spot before him, but we'll see. He was called up before, so who knows. Now, I picked up this guy, second and third baseman, Henser Alberto, 44% owned in Yahoo. He was like 10% owned like last week. Now he's bumped up by 34%. He's been red hot for the actually not terrible Baltimore Orioles. They're not doing too bad, to be quite honest. He's hitting .385 this year, which is insane. So if you're a category league, you got the average right there to bump up that stat, and he's likely to regress, but it's still a valuable pickup or a streaming option when he's hot, and especially in fantasy for leagues with that use points. Pick him up right now because the guy's getting a lot of extra base hits, so expect 5 to 6 points from him each game until he cools off. Now here's a multiple use guy. Second, third, shortstop, left field, right fielder, Dylan Moore, who's 13% owned in Yahoo. He's had a hot start to the season, hitting .367 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs in the first 8 games of his campaign, alongside his great lineup flexibility, which is an invaluable asset to any fantasy team. Moore can be a good breakout candidate for 2020. Not only that, in such a short year, there's 6 weeks until the fantasy playoffs. Well, in my league anyways, I'm sure in yours as well. So, that being said, get the players while they're hot and then dump them when they start to regress, or trade them when they start to regress, because it's such a short year, you don't have time to wait for all these players. You need to get these stats, and you need to get them now before it's too late and you don't even make the playoffs. Now, our last pickup player of the week, third baseman Kyle Seager, who's 39% owned in Yahoo. Seager has started very well for the Mariners. After a bad year last year, not bad, but not the greatest year last year, he's had a better year so far this season, with 2 home runs and 14 RBIs. Add to the fact that he's hitting .326 right now, and he becomes a must-own player right now. So that's it for the fantasy top of the waiver wire breakdown. Let's get to In the Paint with myself, Brandon Plant. Welcome to In the Paint with your host, Brandon Plant from SENS Stock. I'm wearing my Syracuse orange sweater here as the Raptors took on the Los Angeles Lakers. Dion Waiters, Syracuse orange legend, gotta pay some respect to the Q's legend. But the Raptors took down the Q's legend and the Lakers 107-92, and Kyle Lowry went off. He had 33 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists on the night. He was unreal. LeBron James even gave him some respect. He put the league on notice. Fred VanVleet, 13 points, 11 assists on the night. OG Anunoby got 23 points. The Raptors, well gelled. Nick Nurse got snubbed for Coach of the Year. He certainly is the Coach of the Year. They lost Kawhi Leonard. They have not lost a beat. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, this team is legit. LeBron James got another double-double, 20 points, 10 rebounds, while Anthony Davis, LeBrow, underwhelmed with just 14 points and 6 rebounds. But the Raptors took down the Lakers 107-9-2. That's a win. Let's get to the next game for the Raptors. They took on the Miami Heat, who I guess you could say had home court advantage as they're playing in their home state of Florida, but that didn't help at all. The Raptors won this one by 4, 107-103. Fred VanVleet shined in this game, getting a career-high 36 points. Yes, 36 points in this one. Freddie is legit. Pascal Siakam also contributed with 22 points and 6 rebounds. As you can hear, the Raptors have so many talented players who can contribute with 20, 25 points a night at least. If you have 4 or 5 guys like that, you're going to be great. Siakam is a stud. You got Kyle Lowry dominating. It's fantastic. And Fred VanVleet. There's so many players on this Raptors team. They're so underrated. They're not spoken about enough. The NBA reporters and fans in America don't give this Raptors team enough credit. They are on another level. They're always the forgotten child, even though they're a champion. I don't get it. The Raptors are fantastic. They win this one by 4. Goran Dragic for the Heat got 25 points in just 28 minutes, so that's pretty impressive. Jimmy Butler and Jay Crowder got 16 points each. The Raptors have yet, as on this day, Thursday at 10:20, have yet to lose a game in the NBA bubble. That is phenomenal. The Raptors are finally putting everyone on notice because everyone's watching the games, because what else are you going to do during quarantine? The Raptors are putting the league on notice. They want to win back-to-back championships, pardon me. Now let's get to the Suns taking on the Clippers. They took down the Clippers 117-115 off of Devin Booker's insane buzzer beater. Booker was great as usual, racking up 35 points and 8 assists for the Suns, while going 6 out of 9 from the 3-point line, let alone the fact that not only did he juke out Paul George, not only did he break the ankles of Kawhi Leonard, he shot the game-winning shot over Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, former Toronto Raptor, won the game for the Suns, fell on the court, was a total absolute beauty. The Suns have yet to lose a game in this bubble. They have been absolutely insane. I think they went on a 21-0 run against, was it Memphis? I forget which team. They went on a 21-0 run. Was it Portland? I forget. But they went on a 21-0 run like a day or two ago. The Suns are coming out of nowhere. They are legit, and Devin Booker is leading the charge. And the Clippers' Big Joe did play pretty well, considering it is the Suns. They don't have the best defense. Kawhi got 27 points and 7 rebounds. Paul George had 23 points, and even Ivica Zubac had a double-double with 18 points and 12 rebounds. The Suns have yet, like I just said, to lose a game in NBA bubble. They really want the 8th and final spot in the Western Conference. With Memphis losing their first 4 games, it's definitely up for grabs. Now let's get to the final game we're going to recap. It's the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Miami Heat. Now the Miami Heat did not have Jimmy Butler or Dragic in the lineup. However, at half they were up 73-56. Guess how this one ended up? You can't stop the Greek Freak. The Bucks clinched the top seed and won this game 130-116. And like I just said, Jimmy Butler and Dragic were not in the lineup, but potential Rookie of the Year, one of the best rookies in the NBA this season, Tyler Hero had 20 points. Duncan Robinson had a 21-point effort and went 5 for 9 from the 3-point line. The big duo from Milwaukee showed up. Giannis had 33 points and 12 rebounds and went 13 for 17 from the field. The Greek Freak is an absolute freak. He's unbelievable. Chris Middleton had 33 points, went 9 for 14 from the field, and went 5 for 6 from 3. So overall, the Bucks clinched the top seed in the Eastern Conference, like we all predicted them to. The Raptors and, I don't know, maybe the Heat are the only teams, in my opinion, that can give them a scare. Ben Simmons just got an injury, so I would usually include the Sixers, but Ben Simmons with a knee injury, he could be out for a while, so that puts a huge strain on the Sixers, and let's see what happens. Joel Embiid, maybe he can, take over the reins. Well, he always had the reins, but you know what I mean. Maybe he can step it up even more than he already has. But I think the Heat, Bucks, and Raptors are your teams from the East that are really going to have a shot at going to the championship. Go, we the North, go Raptors. But overall, thank you all for watching and listening. This has been a fun episode. We talked about some MLB waiver wire pickups. We've spoken about the NBA. We had a great interview with former NHL goaltender Sean Burke. So thank you all so much for watching and listening. So speaking about watching and listening, let's get to that. Firstly, on our social medias, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SENS Podcast. Make sure to follow me on my personal Twitter at @SENS_. As well, please check out our official streaming platforms. We have 5, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that, 5. That is on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, and of course here on YouTube. Click the red button and make it great and subscribe to us. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate the support. Episode number 19 next week is going to be an absolute banger. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm getting a dog. You will be able to see it in that episode. So thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you all in the next week. Stay safe, and we'll see you very soon.